What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to Comic Breakdown. If you guys are new to the channel, do me a favor and hit that sub button, hit that notification bell, make sure you're not missing any of the awesome content that we have coming out. With this video, we are jumping into Eternals the Heretic. This will be a one-shot issue tying into the Eternals line by Kieran Gillen. And if you have not been keeping up with everything going on with this series, go ahead, check out the link in my description as well as the top of this video. It is going to get you completely caught up on everything going on with this amazing line as it leads into our main event with the Eternals, the Avengers, and the X-Men all going against one another. And what we have seen so far is Thanos is now Prime Eternal, the new ruler of all Eternals. He is beginning to implement all of his rules, and what he wants to do more than anything is make himself one with the machine, having Phastos as his prisoner, torturing him, trying to get any information he can. And we're going to cover that in Eternals issue number 10 later on today. But being Prime Eternal, he now has access to people he never did prior. One of those being his great uncle, the one known as Uranus the Undying. Be sure to buy the comic, support the industry, and with that being said, let's dive into this breakdown. Alright gang, so as we dive into this one-shot issue, we are picking up at the Exclusion, and the rule of Thanos is now underway. And we see Thanos, he is dragging Vulcan away. Vulcan of Polera is being imprisoned. With Druig standing at the cell, Vulcan lets him know that he is yet again a disappointment to him. We see more and more how much Druig is just a snake. But right now, he is a snake that Thanos is using to his full advantage. And ever since Thanos has become Prime Eternal, he is honestly shocked at what the Eternals have become. He has found nothing but weaklings in this place. And at this point, he believes that this is a tree that better have its fruit plucked from it and left barren as a warning. Druig telling him that he is sounding more and more like his great uncle, because Uranus had been disappointed with his family as well. Druig asking if he would like to meet him. It was believed that he had been killed and captured for heresy, but he was never killed. He was certainly captured, and he has been imprisoned in the Exclusion ever since that day. The truth being that they would not risk killing him, they can only imprison him, opening up his cell door. This is where they are greeted by the Undying. Uranus has been hoping to meet Thanos, if that is only to look at yet another disappointment in the Eternals. He has heard the exploits of him. He knows that Thanos had tried to kill half the universe, telling him that he is not doing it good enough, that 50%, that is nothing. It shows a lack of commitment, that if you're gonna do something, you either do it all the way or you don't do it at all. With Thanos threatening him, saying that he could very easily add him to his kill tally, Uranus tells him to do it. Why not? At this point, you're Prime Eternal, you have the power, you have the ability, let me out and let's do this. But Thanos has no obligation to do so, and he also has no want to let him out. He knows that Uranus wants to be released, and so giving him something that he wants is not going to benefit anybody. His torture, his punishment is going to be continuing sitting here in this cell, knowing that he will never be let free. With Uranus not really wanting to continue this conversation, telling him that enjoy your rule, enjoy being Prime Eternal, and when you're finally ready to have a real talk with me, come back, we'll have a discussion on how you can better yourself. And Thanos tells him that I could get the story from you, or I can get the story from Druig. Who would you like telling your story? So we can have a conversation now, or I can close this door, and that will be the end of it. And so Uranus tells us his story, picking up 600,000 years ago. This is before humans ever populated the planet. It was Eternals and it was Deviants. The Eternals, they had been left here completely alone. The Celestials no longer talking to them at this point. They had only the principles their gods had left them. This is what guided guided them along their missions, continuing to stop any excess deviations. Because this was their work, the third principle, their third rule to follow. Correct excess deviation. One of the best at correcting these deviations was Uranus. He was the keeper of secret arsenals of the machine. With a gesture, he could summon war itself and unleash a great tide of cosmic fire. But even having these powers and abilities, this arsenal at his fingertips, he couldn't resist the principles. Day in and day out, these deviations would happen. The deviants would transform and kill everything and everyone nearby them. Many of the early deviants, they would even thank the Eternals, because while they knew they would eventually deviate, or there was a chance that they could deviate, the Eternals were always there to save them, to save the children and the families. Uranus, on the other hand, he doesn't care about any of them. He only cares about doing his duty. He is not here to save the deviants. One day, while they were thanking him after he saved them, he decided to burn all of them to a crisp, leaving nothing but skeletons in his wake. This is when his mind began to figure out a new plan, a way to free them of ever having to worry about deviants again. And before there was a Prime Eternal, there was the three patriarchs. Uranus never had to go through such diplomacy, didn't have to work with snakes like Druid to try to take a throne and have a rule. He worked with his brothers. Being men of science, he would give them the opportunity to see reason. And when it comes to the Eternals, there is 100 of them. And while we'll have many of them call each other granduncle, grandfather, father, mother, whatever the case may be, the truth is, Eternals are not born. And this is something that most of us already know. They all do get broken into three very distinct family structures though. You have the Uranus dynasty, the Oceanus dynasty, and the Kronos dynasty. These are the three brothers. These are the three patriarchs. And while all Eternals, they have the same abilities, those who sit at the top of these dynasties, they are especially powerful across several axes. One of the most unique abilities is that when entering the Unimind, they control the votes of their whole line. The age of the three patriarchs had been defined by being able to dominate the Unimind, and the three of them together, they ruled over the houses. With the three brothers meeting up and currently having a discussion, Uranus is now proposing what comes next. He has come to an understanding of the principles, and he has a new course of action he would like to set, believing that this is going to better serve the Celestials. Not only that, it still follows the principles that they have been following all of these years. He wants to correct excess deviation, and that he would argue any deviation is excess deviation. What he wants to do is exterminate all deviants. That if you take them all out, we never have to worry about excess deviation again. One giant cleansing of the planet, once and for all, and removing this threat. Of course, the others, they see this as heresy. They believe that this would be mass genocide. Uranus, on the other hand, he believes that if he can think these thoughts, if he can propose this idea to his brothers, then the Celestials must allow him to do this. If they didn't want them to extinguish all deviants, they wouldn't allow them to have that thought process. There is nothing in their principles that prevents them from killing deviants. And so genocide, it is a tool that is permitted in his eyes. But Uranus's brothers, they refuse him. They tell him no, say that if he speaks of this again, there will be consequences and repercussions. And this point in history, the deviants, they had started 100 years ago. But in that 100 years, they have multiplied like rabbits. They have built a magnificent city. The only issue is, Uranus knows that at any minute, any of those deviants, they can have their excess deviation and start laying waste to everything, using some very unique power. In one fell swoop, the entire city of deviants, it is wiped clean. Every single one of them burned to an ash. and this was his first strike. Now, he knows that he didn't clean up every single one of them. He knew eventually that he was going to have to go in and round up what deviants were left over and extinguish every single one of them. Recognizing that this is more than likely going to start a war, he calls everyone in his family tree, publishing the decree that they march to omni-genocide. And that is when the Civil War of the Eternals truly began. A war that Uranus had lost, and that is only because he was betrayed. Betrayed by Druig. Druig had seen the way the war was going, recognizing that Uranus was going to lose this fight. That is why he betrayed him. And he truly does see himself as the hero of the Civil War. While Icarus, he was out there being the appearing hero, flying around, doing his thing. The truth is, Druig is the one that ended this war. But Druig also would not allow them to kill Uranus. They wanted to keep him alive, with Phastos bounding him down with the null point chains. He was dragged before his brothers and he was questioned, asking why he did this, why he went against their wishes. The answer being very simple: he thought he did what needed to be done. That if the machine is heaven, the deviants are the dust, and that he needed to wipe away all of the dust. His brothers wanting to mind wipe him and throw him into exclusion. He tells them if they do, his safeguards will trigger. That if he is made into nothing, everything will be nothing. His brothers, they try to call his bluff, because if the machine becomes nothing, then this goes against the very principles that they follow. His principles wouldn't allow him to destroy the machine. But these failsafes, they are enacted after he dies. So if he is dead, the principles, they no longer apply, letting them know that he has been playing the longest of games. He is prepared for this exact moment. His brothers now trying to get into his mind and rip his secrets out, trying to learn all of his failsafes. They sent everything after his psyche, but his psychic citadel, it was powerful. They sent eternal after eternal, wave after wave, trying to get into his mind. And they tried a little bit of everything: subconscious inversion, towering unimind constructs, theological abominations. There was nothing that they didn't throw at him. And at the end of the day, they recognized that he would die. He would die with any memories. His failsafes would go off, and they would lose no matter what. And so they take him to the exclusion. They would rather lose access to their whole arsenal than lose everything. And so now in isolation, holding on to all of these memories for all of this time, he has sat here and he has waited. He has spent 600,000 years waiting for his opportunity to get free. They go on to tell him that the thesis of his, they were proven wrong. The Celestials wanted them to protect the creatures of Earth and to make antibodies to kill some kind of terrible celestial plague. Uranus recognizing that they did not code them to do so, and so their gods, they must be incompetent. And at this point, the Celestials themselves, the gods themselves, they no longer matter. The only thing that does matter is the scripture that they wrote down for them. And Thanos, he has to ask the question, putting philosophy to the side: if I were to kill you right now, that would end the world. Uranus confirming that this is in fact the truth. And Thanos, with a grin on his face, he is happy to hear this information because now he has a secret weapon. All he has to do is come kill his great uncle and the entire world ends. With telling Druig that he needs to leave the room, Uranus has a gift for our Mad Titan, holding up a small imprint key. This is the key that opens up the armories of Uranus. It will let him access all of the failsafes that Uranus has. And if he ever has the need, this key will destroy the machine. And Thanos, he can't help but wonder, why are you giving me the key? You fought your own people. You waged a civil war for this key. Why would you trust me with such a great secret? But for Uranus, he is seeing someone in his line who is not a disappointment. Uranus letting him know that this is his inheritance. And why not enjoy this inheritance? at least for the time being, at least while you are Prime Eternal. With Thanos walking out of the room, he thanks his great uncle, pauses, stops himself, and changes it to grandfather. And that will be the end of this issue. So let me know what you guys think down in the comments. This one was a ton of fun. We really got to go back into the past and see what started the whole civil war between the Eternals to begin with. And really, it was just Uranus becoming a genocidal psychopath. Though his principles didn't stop him from actually doing this. They didn't know what the Celestials wanted, and this really comes at the fault of the Celestials themselves. Creating such magnificent beings like the Eternals, giving them very loose guidelines, and then just disappearing. Of course, after hundreds of thousands of years, these guys are gonna begin to make up their own rules, their own plans, or they're gonna bend what rules they have in existence, just like we see him doing now. And even after he finds out that the Celestials, they didn't actually want him to do that, the truth of the matter is he doesn't care. Then now he believes that the Celestials, they're just incompetent and they don't understand their own scripture. But this is a huge ramification for everything moving forward, because now Thanos has the arsenal that Uranus had, the ability to wipe an entire city clean. Not only that, he has the power to destroy the machine, and this is huge. He has a failsafe of his own now. So the Avengers, the Eternals, the X-Men, there is nobody that can challenge him without risking everything. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know your theories. If you guys truly enjoy the content that we have coming out, check out the Super Thanks button. This button will let you donate directly to the channel. If you can't do that, be sure to subscribe to the channel, like this video, hit that notification bell, and until the next breakdown.